Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. So, we're going to be continuing on with the special verbs that, the special huruf that affect verbs. So, as you may remember, a harf is a small word that has an impact on another word. We had learned some before, such as harfu jar, which impacts a noun, forcing it to go into a state of jar. Remember, it was that list, bata, kaf, lam, wa, mundu, mudkhala, rabb, hasha, and so forth. We also learned about the harfu nasb, or the sisters of inna, and essentially what those do is that they place a noun into a state of nasb, and that was inna, anna, ka'anna, layta, la'alla, lakinna. And just recently we learned about harfu majzoom, which was a special list of huruf that actually have an impact on verbs. So the ones before, harfu nasb, or the sisters of inna, and harfu jar, had impacts on nouns. And so now we're looking at the ones that have impacts on verbs. So harfu jazim had a impact on a verb, making it take a state of jazm, which means it will essentially just take a sukun on the end, right? Now we have a similar one, which are known as the huruf nasibah, and essentially what they do is that they take the present tense of a verb and they make it take a fatha on the end, right? And the list of them is en, len, likay, idhan. So this one here may look a little bit strange. They all essentially mean the exact same thing, except they can be written like this, can be written like this, or it could be written like this, right? So kay is the actual huruf nasibah, but it can be implied through li also, right? And it'll be translated the same, which is so that. And you'll know that through context by looking at it and seeing that it's affecting a verb and making it take a fatha, right? When usually it would have a dhamma by default. So let's take a look at these all in use. So we have en, yen, surah. See, en is here, and then the verb coming after it in present tense will take a fatha, and that would mean that he is helping. Originally it would mean he is helping if it's yen suru, but because of the en, it takes a fatha on the end and it becomes en, yen, surah. And it means that he is helping. Then we have len, yen, surah, which means he will never help. Likay, yen, surah, or kay, yen, surah, or even li, yen, surah, which means so that he is helping. Remember, for the len here, it will be trapped. It will take the present tense verb and it will trap it in the future. So it will go from being he is helping to he will never help. So it's trapped in the future with negation. Then finally we have idhan yen surah, which means then he is helping, right? So the verb takes a fatha because it is now in a state of mansub. That's the state that we'll call it, just like how when a verb takes a jazm, it's now in the state of majzoom, right? So we have the four states of words, just as a reminder. So there's marfu, which is a noun in a state of rafa. That means usually it would take a dhamma at the end, kitabun. And then we have majzoom, which is a noun in a state of jar. So an example of this is ala al-kitabi. This kitabi, a b there shows that it's in a state of jar. Then we have mansub, that can be now applied to a noun or a verb in a state of nasb. So if you have one of the hurufun nasibah, which is en, len, likay, or idhan, it's going to force the present tense verb coming after it to go into a state of mansub. And then finally, we have the huruful jazima, which is the state of majzoom. And when you have a huruful jazima, it forces the verb to go into a state of jazm. An example of this is lam yaktub, right? Which means don't write, or he did not write. So in the past, we have seen nouns enter into a state of mansub before. The following are scenarios of mansub. So this is just a simple reminder. You can skip over this if you need be. So we had the sisters of inna, right? So inna al-kitaba, it's forcing this noun into a state of nasb, qadimun. So for sure, the book. Then we had kana. Remember kana, its khabar becomes mansub. So kana zaydun maridan. I mean, Zayd was sick. Then we have the case of mansub when it applies to an object, because remember, a verb, when it comes to a verb, the doer is in a state of rafa, meaning it takes a dhamma, and the object, the thing that's receiving the action, is in a state of nasb. So fataha zaydul baba, right? Zayd opened the door. Then finally, we now have the hurufun nasibah, len yaktuba. Remember, it would be yaktubu before, which means he is writing. But because of the len, it traps it in the future and it becomes negation. So lan yaktuba, and it goes into a state of mansub. So he will never write, or he never will write. Yeah, either one works. So how do you conjugate it? So when you're taking it through the 14 forms, it pretty much remains the same, except for the fact that the last letter is going to take a fatha, right? For the singular. For the dual, similar to the majzoom, the noon will be dropped. For the plural, the noon will be dropped, and that will apply across the board except for plural females. So when it comes to third person plural females, that noon is going to remain, and when it comes to second person plural females, that noon will remain. So it'll be لن يضربا لن يضربا لا يضربوا لن تضربا لن تضربا لن يضربنا لن تضربا لن تضربا لن تضربوا لن تضربي لن تضربا لن تضربنا لن أضرب لن نضرب. And yeah, that's our lesson. Assalamu alaikum.